Good evening. It's Viola Holmes back again, registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist with your nutrition nugget for the week. So, tonight I want to review something that I may have talked about in a couple of months ago, but it's a great way to plan meals in the right size portions and getting the right foods. And it's called the plate method. So, we're going to put up an image of a plate so that we can talk about this. I did not have an image the last time. So this is called the plate method. And there's several different plates that you may see. Um, there's one, you may have said this looks familiar, but it's not exactly what I've seen before, or maybe you've never seen this. But this can be a really easy way to plan healthy, balanced meals. I've had lots of patients use this method um, for diabetes and for weight loss, for pre-diabetes. We even have plates like this for, you know, kidney health or cardiovascular disease. So planning using a plate is a simple strategy um, if you eat a variety of foods. And that might be a goal to work on for individuals who maybe could use some work on getting more vegetables in. So I want you to notice the plate, kind of take a minute to look at all aspects of this beautiful plate in front of us. So notice that there's a dotted line down the middle of the plate. Okay, so it's divided the plate in half, and then on one side, the plate is divided again into two quarters. So this is the plate method, that you have a half of your plate and then you have two quarters on the other side. So for this plate for diabetes, for pre-diabetes, on that half plate, half side, we always like for you to have non-starchy vegetables. Now you may see some images that side is divided somewhat so that there's a smaller space for fruit, but most of that half is vegetable. And that's fine if that's what you'd like to do. But for diabetes and prediabetes, we always focus on half the plate being non-starchy vegetables, and there's room to add fruit on the side. So when you look at this plate, again, you see lots of color. And the color comes from those non-starchy vegetables as well as that sweet potato. So this, non-starchy vegetables are low in calories. So that's one of the benefits. They're high in fiber. So we consider those vegetables to be nutrient dense. So on this plate, it looks like there's some collards with onions and squash on that half plate. So it can be, when you're thinking about that half plate, it can be one, if you really enjoy the squash, you could have all squash, or, a couple veggies like this plate is. You could have a salad as well as a cooked vegetable, whatever you want to have for half your plate being non-starchy vegetables. And again, a serving of vegetables is just 25 calories. So that's really low. So if we think about them though, how do we add calories to the plate, to the vegetables though? It's how they're cooked, right? Or what kind of dressing we put on them. So that's one of the goals. We want half the plate to be non-starchy vegetable, cooked in a healthy way, or cooked using less fat or less salad dressing, less oil. So if those greens, if you have a tendency to cook those in ham hocks, then the strategy would be to try using smoked turkey maybe, or just to use some chicken broth, or, make your own broth up to cook your vegetables in. Or if you really enjoy cooking your veggies in butter, can you try a margarine, and maybe an olive oil based margarine? We've talked about fats before and how, olive oil and canola oil are a healthier fat. So if you were to use those oils, you would be getting some healthy fat on those vegetables. So half the plate veggies. And if you're thinking, whoa, there's no way I can eat that many vegetables at dinner, small steps. Can you start out with at least one serving of those veggies, with the eventual goal to be that half the plate will be those non-starchy vegetables that are low calorie, high fiber, lots of vitamins, lots of nutrients. And I always ask people too when I'm introducing this plate method to them, I ask, so if we look at this plate and we see the components of it, when you're planning your dinner meal, which part of this plate do you think about first? What are you thinking about when you're thinking about what I'm fixing for dinner? And most of the time, individuals tell me that they think about their protein first, what kind of meat they're going to have. And I ask what they think about second. And typically, what I get back from that question is they think about what starch they're going to have. What kind of potatoes, or is it going to be noodles or pasta or rice? And then, if there's time and there's energy left, they think about the vegetables. So I always like to challenge individuals when they share that with me, when you're planning your meals, planning your dinner, at least dinner, plan the vegetables first. So, tomorrow or later in the week, maybe you've already planned what you're having for dinner tomorrow, plan your vegetables first. So take inventory of your refrigerator, your freezer, your cabinets, and see what non-starchy vegetables you have available and think about which you'd like to have. Or maybe you haven't fixed dinner yet this evening. You could think about it for dinner this evening. And those vegetables don't have to, be fresh. It's unrealistic to think, particularly with skyrocketing costs these days, that we're going to eat all fresh vegetables. Frozen vegetables are a great choice, particularly the ones that, don't have any sauces on them. There's sometimes, veggies with cheese sauces and salty ingredients. You want to stay away from those. And you can find great sales on those frozen veggie packs that you can even put them in the microwave if you don't want to put them on the stove. A lot of them are in steamable bags. So they're a great item to have and purchase when they're on sale, stock up. If you're using canned vegetables, we recommend a lower sodium, or if you can get the kind that's packed in water, or no sodium added. Or if you get the regular kind, you're saying, no, Viola, I can't do that. I've had those before by accident. You hear that a lot and just can't deal with it. So at least you can rinse and drain some of that sodium or juice off of those canned vegetables. So they don't have to be fresh all the time. Have a variety, have, the things that you really like, the collards, the greens, those kinds of things. There's certainly a preferred fresh vegetable for a lot of people, but you can have a variety in your house. And this on the side, of the plate, there's some other options. But the only vegetables that most people consume that are not that are starches are the potatoes, which we're going to get to that in a minute. Potatoes, corn, peas. The rest of the vegetables are pretty much non-starchy. So, you have a variety, lots to choose from for that half. And then, and let's say it's spinach. Maybe there's spinach on the plate, or you want to have spinach. If you like it raw for a salad one evening, then the next evening you could cook it, or saute it up a little bit so that you're getting a variety and you're not wasting foods. So we've talked about half the plate, non-starchy vegetables. You're going to plan those vegetables next time, or the next time you're getting ready to think about dinner. Think about your vegetables first. And so then we have the 2/4 left. And there is the lean meat that looks like a chicken thigh that's skinless and boneless. So that's a lean protein choice. Doesn't take a lot of meat, and meats are, the most expensive part of our budget. So by cutting back on the meat, meats are animal products, and certainly this chicken is lean, but you're still going to get some saturated fat. So you don't want to overdo it with your meat portions because you're going to get, extra calories that are not really needed. So we usually say the size of the palm of a woman's hand is a 3-ounce portion of meat, or deck of cards is about 3 ounces. If you're having a white fish, like tilapia or flounder or something, like you can think about a checkbook as a portion, a 3-ounce portion, because it's thin, so you get more area there. But you want to think about that 3 ounces of protein, and there are also some great plant-based proteins as well that save money at the grocery store too. Having beans. Beans are protein. They also fall into the starch category, which is fine. That's, if you haven't experimented with tofu yet, tofu's pretty inexpensive. So that may be something to put on your list as your protein source. And there's some other proteins listed down the side of the page as well. And that's in the red section. And I'm not sure how you can see it, so I'll just name out. There's chicken and there's eggs and cheese. So you could, eggs are inexpensive. They can be great to have an omelet even in the evenings. Have a nice salad or those vegetables, an omelet. You can even stick veggies in it. There's fish listed, lean beef. So that's the key with beef. And if you have the pork, then make sure it's lean and, not processed pork like ham that's really salty and has saturated fat. And then there's some shrimp there as well. So think about your protein source, lean. I always say less than lean. And I probably told you this before. I've mentioned this before, but a good way to think about which protein sources are lean is think about the different animals, right? So pigs, cows have four legs or 4 feet, right? And your chickens, your turkeys have two. Fish has 0. So the more feet, the more fat. So if you can have the 2 and the no, and the animal sources with no feet, you're going to have leaner choices. Okay? And try to, again, eliminate or stay away from the processed things like the salamis and the hams and all those things. You want to be careful. And then on the other quarter of that plate is where you want to have your starch. Now, particularly for diabetes, we want to make sure the plate doesn't have a lot of starches because starches are what raise the blood glucose levels. And starches, are higher in calories. I think I shared with you that the non-starchy vegetables on that half plate have like 25 calories per serving. So when I look at the squash and those greens, I see just the plain vegetables about 50 to 75 calories. Of course, we've cooked them in some oil or something. And then when I look at that half of that sweet potato, I see about 160 calories, 125 to 160. So that's the difference there. If you consume, a large amount of the starches are just more calories. So, the larger the portion, the more calories you're thinking about. So I know somebody's saying a half of a potato. That might be the goal, depends on the size of the potato. So buying smaller ones. I think this time of year is a little easier to get smaller potatoes, but sometimes like in the fall, they're huge. So you got to cut them in half, share with somebody else if you can, or, put the other half away if you don't mind having the leftovers for lunch the next day. Now, if you're thinking, Viola, that is not enough, there's no way I can do that. If you're accustomed to eating a lot of starches, that's, starches, it's kind of, it's one of the things that we grew up because starch would fill people, right? So it was that meat and potato mindset. So if you're accustomed to having multiple starches at a meal, which a lot of people are, again, go slow. So if you're used to having peas and potatoes at a meal or macaroni and potatoes, first just cut back to one of those. And once you're at just one starch at that meal, then think about that portion size. Is this the right size or did I overdo it? Did I have starch on half the plate tonight and I just had my vegetables on a quarter? Am I flipping that? And kind of, again, slowly work toward it. The other thing about that potato or starches is kind of like those non-starchy vegetables, what are we adding on them and how much? How much butter or margarine or brown sugar would be on that half a sweet potato? And everybody, has to kind of set their own goals if if it's too much, right? But usually we like, a teaspoon or a couple teaspoons of margarine or butter. Cinnamon's good. You can use as much as you want to. Brown sugar, be aware. But this is what we kind of want to aim for. If you say, Viola, I don't even like to eat on plates, I can't do that. Well, you can have this same concept in your head if you like bowls, if you like rice or noodles. So you have a bowl and you're going to, you put a bit of that down, like about a cup. So say a fist is about a cup or less than that cup if you can, and then put your non-starchy vegetables on and then layer in your protein to get that variety. That's really the key, for balance blood glucose levels, for appetite. We really like for you to have a variety of healthy food choices. So think about this plate, planning your meals, what's on the plate, and how are you going to cook what's on the plate for, your best outcomes. And again, this is something that takes away if you don't want to measure, if measuring foods, it's not something that you like to do or don't want to get into. Just by using this plate, you can really eat healthy. So I hope that this has been a healthy, this has been a good, will be a method, excuse me, that you'll try if you've not used it before, and plan your meals based on this plate. And then even you can think about, if you're planning your meal on the plate, what can you do with those foods, what you have, if you have leftovers the next day, how can you change it up a little bit for your lunch meal? Again, if it was raw spinach one day, can you cook it the next day? If you would have rice on this plate instead of the sweet potato, can you make some kind of bowl with it, the chicken, the rice, the veggies the next day, or a salad? So have a variety and look at all the colors and enjoy. And so I hope, and you can take this down, Lynn, and I don't think any questions came in. I was looking at that plate. So plan your plate, plan your meals. And I do see one here. What are protein sources, not tofu, for vegetarians or those who don't eat much meat? So beans are the number one, lots of fiber, lots of protein, great choice. They're eggs, if you like eggs. How long can you keep frozen vegetables in the freezer? They can usually last a pretty long time. If you haven't opened them, if you use half the bag and put the half back, you're going to get some, you might get some freezer burn, but they stay a pretty long time. I'm not sure if there are always dates on them, but that may be something to check. Good, Vanessa. Thanks for joining. It did look delicious, right? And I'm ready to go have dinner now too. Well, thank you for joining in, and I hope that you'll plan your meals using the plate. Until next time, God bless.